I just learned this the other day, so I'm probably going to butcher it. But our whole most of the domestic violence laws are based off of a system that automatically assumes that the woman's the victim. And in the U.S. And so it's like a lot of men, when you talk to people that have actually worked in domestic violence, most domestic violence situations are mutually abusive, where the man and the woman are hitting each other, and the men still get put away and the women don't.
So firstly, the disclaimer that this video is for educational and entertainment purposes for my subscribers, and therefore falls under the fair use category of the DMCA. So what Pearl's talking about here is the Duluth model, and the Duluth model is what is used by all of the Western police forces, or all of the police forces in the Western societies are trained on the Duluth model, which is to assume that in a domestic violence situation, the male is the perpetrator and the female is the victim.
A woman can just call the cops, and a cop will come in and automatically, based on their training, assume that the woman's the victim.
Okay, wait. Again, advocate for women that go through these situations.
Yeah, so these three NPCs on the couch today have just heard that the experts in the field, the people who are dealing with domestic violence, are reporting that basically that the relationships are dysfunctional, that both parties in the relationship are violent towards each other, and now we've got this one piping up. Is she going to play devil's advocate, or is she just going to spout out the male perpetrator, female victim narrative, or some variation on it? Let's have a listen.
I don't know what the stats tell you. I don't know what the stats are not telling you, because these things you cannot actually regulate, because a lot of things go unsaid.
So what she's just told us there is that she doesn't know what she's talking about. She's got no data on it. She doesn't know what the stats are saying. She doesn't know what the stats are not saying. But that's not going to stop her from telling us what she thinks, obviously. And we should take her seriously, because, well, she does have ovaries.
Can I just to give you perspective? It's from people that work with these couples and that work at women's shelters will tell you this. Well, so much so that they're like, there is the three feminists that came up with the system that the justice, and I'm butchering this, but it's like the system that the justice system is built on that automatically assumes the woman's the victim. They were saying that even in their practice, it wasn't what they saw. That they were saying, you know what, it's actually mutually abusive. But sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that when it comes to domestic abuse, I believe that women are inherently more vulnerable to be in that situation, because when a woman does commit, and this is why men get upset that women cheat, because when a woman commits to a man, she gives herself emotionally. When you attach to yourself to somebody emotionally, now you are a victim to all of these things. Whereas men, as Andrew Tate quite rightly said, he's got the decision whether he wants to make you 10 out of 10 happy or 5 out of 10 happy and keep you crying here and there. Because it is true. Once men get a woman to fall in love with them, they've got the power. That's also what men don't understand, and that's how they mess about. And that's why domestic violence, I believe, is so prevalent amongst women being the victims instead of being the perpetrators. Although there are cases that, of course, the women do take the piss and everything.
But I'm saying people...
Well, I don't think I've heard as much drivel come out of one woman's mouth in 2 minutes in my entire friggin' life. What an absolute load of crap. That women commit emotionally to a relationship and men don't, or whatever she's implying there. I think you'll find that in most relationships the women are not emotionally involved. They are there for the resources, and so their emotions don't really come into it, they don't come into play. And you'll see this as women, when they talk about it, they'll say we marry for security, and they're talking about financial security, of course. And that's what women seek in a relationship, is financial security. So, and that's why they're demanding men have, 6 figures incomes. It's about this financial security. And so emotions play a very minor role in women's relationships with men. And so, she's just talking through a hole in her head, basically. And she admits it. She says she doesn't know anything about the topic. She doesn't know anything about the topic, but then she just reiterates the narrative that women are the victims and men are the perpetrators, when she's just been told that women and men are mutually violent towards each other in these domestic situations by the people who actually came up with the Duluth model, for example. So, if that's not NPC thought, she failed to actually listen to what Pearl had to say, and her programming is on display for everyone to see.
People that work in these environments are saying usually it's mutual. So that people that work with the couples that try to help them out at women's shelters are saying it's mutual.
Yeah, it becomes mutual, and this is the thing, again, having experienced that myself.
So I'm saying, sorry, I'm just going to finish. So I'm saying it's this is a way that men are discriminated against. If a woman's abused, there are women's shelters everywhere. There are no men's shelters. And there's all these little things in society that once you see it, you can't unsee it, where I genuinely believe that men are the most discriminated against group in society.
So there's a tiny little taste of a red pill for these women. And Pearl's just brought up an important point here, where there are no domestic violence shelters for men in the West. Now, I think that it's slightly changed in I don't even know what country it is now, but I think there's 4 men-only domestic violence shelters. It might be in the UK even, something like that. There's 4 of them, I think, and against 2,000 or 3,000 for women. But the point is that in a domestic violence situation, there's nowhere that a father can take his children to escape the violence. And that's by design, by women. They don't want the narrative changing, because it suits them to be the victim. Or to be portrayed as the victim. So let's see what these women are going to say with the facts that Pearl's just brought up, that men are very much discriminated against in society, by society, particularly at the moment, white men. So, what are these NPCs gonna say to that? I can't wait.
In terms of emotionally, I do agree with that, just because I do think there's not really much safe space for a lot of men to talk about how they felt. There was a video that went viral of Ruger. He was performing at a show, and a woman grabbed his private parts. He was so upset by it, he couldn't perform. He just dropped the mic and just walked off, and nothing would have happened to that woman. To me, that is so unfair that he would probably just think, oh, you know what, that's a show. But he got violated. That's sexual assault. And I think there's not a space for men to talk about how they feel and actually what they go through as well, because we hear about women a lot, but not men. So I do agree with that in that sense.
Yeah, so the NPC there pipes up and gives a non sequitur about some celebrity getting groped, and it was obviously sexual assault. What you expect from these emotionally intelligent women. So we're talking, the point Pearl made there was that there is discrimination against men in society. This one pipes up and says, what happened to the woman who sexually assaulted a man in public on stage, nothing. And if that's not, why can a criminal act be perpetrated in broad daylight, so to speak, and the woman walks away unscathed? The female perpetrator walks away unscathed. How does that work in an equal society where these NPCs are demanding equality, that they be treated with equality, whatever that means? So basically what you've got is there's women not listening to what's been said and just spouting off what they've been told they should think. And that's par for the course, unfortunately.
But even, and I talk about this like a lot of times women, we're just like bailed out of bad decisions we make. And it's like, if you're bad with money and you get homeless, you have a women's shelter. Men are just homeless. There's a homeless shelter down the street. I want to do an interview there. Like 90% of the homeless people there are men. But like, it's like nobody cares unless it's a woman. There was I can't remember. It was somewhere in the Middle East. There was a group of women that were like kidnapped, and it was like national headlines or whatever. There was a group of men that were kidnapped and slaughtered, and they didn't even talk about. It's like they only care when it's women. It's like and when I first heard this stuff, I was like, no. But then once you see it, it's like you can't unsee it.